IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another amazing episode of our Get Into IT live show. Let's do just that. Let's get into IT. Let's get into it. And of course, the second I hit record, I just got 3 text messages in a row. I haven't heard from anybody all morning, but it's going to just blow up right now. Ping, ping, ping. Welcome to Friday. We made it to Friday, everybody. It's Friday. Thank you so much for joining us on your Friday during your potential lunch hours. We always appreciate you coming here and hanging out. And I have a very special guest today, and we're going to talk about a topic we loved talking about here with my computer career. So I'm joined by Mason Reese, who is a Cyber Warrior Program instructor. Mason, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Friday and hanging out with us. Army veteran to IT instructor Mason Reese. Again, thank you. I know we've spoke before. We did a testimonial with you. I'm always appreciative of your time. And let's go into a little bit about your background. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Born in Lexington, Kentucky. Love. Okay. Grew up in Eastern Kentucky in the mountains of a small town called, is it Beattyville? Bettyville?
Yeah, Beattyville.
How many times have you had to correct people in
just about every time.
United States? You're a United States Army veteran and served 5 years active duty as military police officer. Thank you so much for your service. You love to play chess, which that's too smart for me. I can't. I wish I could. No way. You also have on your LinkedIn bio, so I don't even know what this means. Karo Khan is your favorite opening.
Yep. It's an opening for the black pieces, and it helps you kind of support your push on the D file. It's one of my favorite openings in chess.
I didn't even know there were multiple openings to chess.
Hundreds.
Hundreds? Oh, okay, That's fascinating. You're also a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo and a level 3 certified Krav Maga instructor.
Yep, Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. Oh my God, I'm learning so much. And okay, video games though, I got you though. Destiny 2, Elder Scrolls series, and Fallout. I have a couple questions about this. Did we watch the Fallout show?
I've gotten to watch some of it. My wife started it before me, but from what I got to see, it looked fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I watched a couple episodes. I'm not a huge Fallout girl, but I've been told, of course, New Vegas is the best.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And 4 was actually decent. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite Fallout? Which one's the best one?
Fallout 3, probably like my all-time favorite. You know, there's nothing like activating that nuke on that town and blowing up the smithereens, so...
I remember back in the day, do you remember going to GameStop at midnight to pick your games up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like a really great memory to look back on, just you and your friends. It's like 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Just mind sucking it, just trying to, get ahead to try to get in there and grab your prepaid copy of whatever release it was. Back then, it was like mainly Call of Duty was like the big one, but yeah, those used to be the days. Now you just wait for it to get released, and from the comfort of your home, just download it online.
Just hit the download button, which you can pre-download now, and you don't even have to worry about it. Well, I remember going at midnight to pick up Destiny, and I was so busy because I was in college. I didn't really get to do a whole lot, but my friends started playing it, and they were so mad and so insanely disappointed. But I've heard great things about Destiny too, so.
Yeah, I've played Destiny for roughly maybe 6 years now. Like, I didn't play the original, but had a really big friend group that was really big on Destiny. They've been playing it since day 1 beta.
Wow.
And so I got real big on Destiny 2. I probably put about maybe, I'm going to embarrass myself here, probably around like 10,000 hours in it. And we've grinded, like, anything in that game, we've gotten it. And we've competed on the world's largest scale for like day 1 raids and stuff. And but I've actually quit playing Destiny, and just I've kind of it's not that I dislike the game, but I just feel like the developers have kind of abandoned the community, so I've kind of gotten away from it.
I always hate that.
Yeah.
You do have a shout out over on LinkedIn. Donald Clemens said, "Let's go, Mason."
Hey, Don.
Love that. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. And, we always love to set aside time to dive into topics like this and to help service members navigate their education or just jump into civilian life. So this week we're excited to be joined by you to kind of answer some of these questions, maybe help somebody out there in the audience who has some questions as well of what it's like to not only attend my computer career, but the Cyber Warrior program, which is a feat in itself, and, make that transition from military life to civilian life. So let's get started, shall we?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So, how long were you in the Army? And if you don't mind telling us, did you do anything IT related in the Army, or what exactly were you doing? I know we kind of spoiled this one already, but let's come in
That's
and
all
talk.
good. Yeah. So, again, I served 5 years active duty in the United States Army as a military police officer. And during my service, I was primarily engaged in law enforcement operations at various duty stations, but that was both stateside and overseas. And most of the time, I responded for calls of service. I conducted criminal investigations, made arrests, and essentially, I was just performing like the full spectrum of what's expected of a law enforcement officer. And but some of the specialized roles that I had at the time, I was a breacher on the SWAT team, or what we call a special reaction team, and which allowed me to engage in like tactical operations requiring like precision, guidance and teamwork on that. Then I was also on the personal security detail, which is when you protect a asset, which was a 3-star general. And so those experiences in the military really helped me develop a really good discipline and attention to detail, and it gave me the ability to stay calm under pressure and have skills that really carried over to my civilian life and the IT career. But in regards to did I have much IT experience there, like for all my veterans out there, you guys understand, like when you're what's called PMCSing, and it's when you're performing maintenance on your vehicles that you're assigned to. And so sometimes it's sticking a tube of chapstick into the radio receiver, trying to hopefully get a good connection, and or a Blue Force tracker, smacking that thing on top of the head. Hopefully it'll boot itself on. So, but that was really all the IT experience I really had in the military.
And well, I'm going to put a pin in that because I am going to ask you a couple questions about that later on too, about what you learned in the military and how that helped your cyber security career. But I want to talk about the transition from your military to civilian life. What exactly was that like, and how was that? Did you have like a good support system? Tell me all about that transition, because that seems to be one of the hardest parts about all of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the transition for me was extremely, extremely difficult.
Mm.
I didn't leave the military on my own terms, honestly. I was medically separated after sustaining an injury, and at the time, I had just gotten married, and I just had my first kid. And and my kid was only a few weeks old at the time, and I pretty much got told immediately that I was going to be med boarded out, and so there was no time to prepare, emotionally, physically, financially. And when I left the army, I really felt like I lost a sense of my purpose and my direction. And from I think I was 18 when I joined to 24, 25 when I got out, and my whole life had been built around structure, being told what to do, where to be, how to operate. And suddenly all of that had been taken from me. It was gone, and there was no roadmap, no routine, there was no clear mission for me. And that kind of shift hit me really hard, and honestly it took years for me to work through that. But I know that me and my fellow veterans out there struggle in very similar ways when they're transitioning as well, and especially when it's unexpected, and it feels like your identity's been stripped away. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping other veterans in the CWP program find that new purpose and that new direction, especially after service.
All right. William says, "Woohoo! Mason, best instructor in my CC."
Yeah,
Look
thank
at
you,
that.
William.
Got such a fan base out there. So I want to talk about you finding my computer career. Like, we'll
Mhm.
get into the Cyber Warrior program here in a minute, but I want to talk about how you came across the school itself.
Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna give you a little backstory, then I'll get to that one. So I had two businesses in Kentucky at the time. I had a martial arts school and a firearms company, and I just bought a house. And a really great friend of mine that I played games with, he's a detective with the Fallujah Sheriff's Office in Florida, and he ended up getting me a job in Florida with the sheriff's office. So I sold my house, I sold my businesses, moved my family down, and similar situation as in the army. I had a job one day, the next day I didn't, and I ended up getting hurt and was unable to perform my duties as a Leo, and that was it. So I went from being a deputy to being a cook at Bob Evans, actually.
Mhm.
And And so, and from Bob Evans, I went to being a dental assistant actually, and then from that, I started working as a Amazon delivery driver during Christmas. And it was during Christmas, I'll never forget it. I was in my delivery truck, and I just felt so defeated. And I was just like, man, like, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And I remember scrolling through YouTube, and then sure enough, there's a MyCC ad, and it was talking about the CWP program. And I was like, man, Cyber Warrior program. I was like, well, that sounds interesting. So I looked into it, and as soon as I got off of work, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, like, I really want to do this. And she was like, hey, maybe this is something you should look at. And that's how I kind of got involved with my CC.
Amazing. Amazing. I thought you were gonna say like you heard it on the radio, like perfect timing, but that sounds like perfect timing as well, just to be scrolling on socials. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. So from there, you immediately were introduced to the Cyber Warrior program. Tell us about your time in this program, because it's tough. It's one of our most difficult programs, if not our most difficult one. And how were you able to stick with it and graduate? Because it's no easy feat.
Yeah, absolutely. And the CWP program, I always brag about it because that's where I came from and that's where I'm at now. And I always tell people this is where the big dogs play. We got 3 months to get you 4 IT certifications, and it's no easy feat. Now, when I was a student, I remember my first day of class. You're very on edge. Like, because remote learning is a new thing, kind of, and so it's new to me, and so I'm really nervous about that. I'm wondering how it's going to be. Am I going to really pick up the ideas and the concepts? And the first thing you do at my CC, one of the first things you do for your class is you do a student promise. And so I remember making the student promise, and when I told my wife I wanted to do this, she told me, she's like, if you're not successful at this, we won't make it. Like, financially, we can't do it. And so I remember on my student promise, I just put, I'm going to be the most proficient, dedicated student that's ever been or ever will be. And I remember printing that out. I put it above my monitor, so every day on class, I got to see that. And that was my focus. It was my wife and my kids, and I wanted my future to be different than what it had been. And and so and pretty much, it was 8 hours a day of just lectures, assignments, hands-on training. It was, a lot of peaks and valleys and ups and downs. I would understand things. I wouldn't understand things. I would fail, then I would succeed. And 3 months, it felt like an eternity. But when I finally got to the last day of class, I was like, wow, like, where did time go? And I had transitioned from this, very mediocre IT guy, who thought he had an idea of what IT was, to being someone that was very competent, and the day after I graduated, I had a job, and so it just, I really knocked it out of the park. I feel like with CWP. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, yeah, of course, of course. But I want to talk about now is, earning that, graduating and earning those certifications, but then becoming an IT instructor. Tell me about that journey and why you decided to take that path.
Yeah. So, I was working for Penske at the time as a IT service desk technician, and I had done a lot of offensive security stuff. I'd been self-teaching myself ethical hacking and things, and I just felt I was getting really proficient at it. I had done some hacking competitions. I've won first place in those. I've done some penetration testing and things for businesses as well. So when I ultimately moved from Florida back to Kentucky, I couldn't take my job with me. So I was like, well, let me take a step back and let me ask myself, where do I see myself at? And my CC popped in my head. I'm like, wow, maybe I can pay this forward. All the hard work that George and Melissa, my instructors, did for me. Maybe I could do this for other students and other veterans. Um, and and that's exactly what I did. I became an instructor and I wanted to pay that forward, and the same energy and that same motivation that my instructors poured into me. I believe that I can help shape that journey for other people as well, and do that for the next generation of IT professionals.
I wanted to write this down because I wanted to go back to it. Something important that you mentioned too that I want to touch on is other veterans, and something that people that go through the Cyber Warrior program really appreciate is a lot of the times it is veterans teaching veterans. How important is that? Sorry, this is kind of a question on the fly, but how important is that as a veteran to be taught? Is it important? How do you feel?
Absolutely. Um, we have the team that I'm with. It's me and Rob, and Rob and I. Rob's not a veteran, but he's a phenomenal instructor. He's a phenomenal human, and me and him get along really great. But I can bring something to the team that other people that haven't served, can't. And what I could do is connect with them through our stories that we, because we veterans talk different to one another, right? It sounds like a third language as we're discussing stories or things, and I can meet them where they're at, and I can help elevate them to where they need to be. And that can be hard for some people that don't understand why we act the way we do, because we could be kind of rowdy and rambunctious and very opinionated, and so, but where I understand that, and it gives me a really good edge, and it brings comfort to that, right? You know, People come into here from all backgrounds, Navy, Marine Corps, Army, and even the Air Force. I'll say the Air Force and the Chair Force, as I like to call them,
Uh,
but they're some of my best friends. If you need call for support, they're always a really good helping hand. And but we have that camaraderie. We've all been through some really tough times, and uh, being able to draw on each other in that brotherhood and that sisterhood that we have with one another, it's a very powerful thing.
yeah, absolutely. So the next question I feel like is too simple because it just says, "Did you feel prepared for your role leading students?" But I want to dive into something you mentioned earlier on this topic too. And we're backtracking just a little bit here, but you mentioned earlier, what you learned in the Army, you were able to put forth not only in cybersecurity, but in the IT instructor role that you're currently at. So,
Mhm.
did you feel prepared for that role in leading students, and what did you take away from the military that also helped you in this position that you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. In the military, we're taught, how to give direction, purpose, and how to motivate and to discipline. In fact, and through I've been teaching technically not IT, but I've been teaching for about 15 years of my life. I've been doing martial arts for almost 20, which is kind of embarrassing for me to say now.
No, no,
And
that's a great point.
yeah, and I've been teaching firearms for a long time, and but teaching is nothing new to me. But I really wanted to drive. I didn't come into my CC with my glass is half full mindset.
Mm.
I came in here with the idea that I'm going to look at instructors like George DeHaven, people like Jason McQueen, and people like that who are just killing the game, who are like they're just really doing well at what they're doing. I want to copy and really add to myself what they bring to the table, so that way I can enhance what the students are getting. And that's what I feel like really made me really prepared for being a instructor here. Was I was a student too, so I know what the students' expectations are, how they're thinking, and I know all the little tricks and things that they try to do in the background. And so I
All the
get to,
secrets.
yeah, exactly, and it's really cool to be able to build a relationship with the students, because like my CC is totally different than any other program out there. Like you don't just get access to me and to your lead instructor for 3 months. Like, we're here anytime you need us. You could be graduated for a year and I'm a phone call away, and you can be like, "Hey Mason, like, hey, I just got this awesome job," and I'll be more than happy to sit there and tell you what you could do better, or what if you're doing great, I'd love to congratulate you. ICC is a lot different. This isn't just about us being successful as a company, because our success is the student's success.
Mm.
And that's what I don't get paid. I don't get paid a dime more if a student passes or fails. What I get, what I receive in payment is whenever I see a life change, and that's what it's all about for me as being an instructor here.
Hope you don't mind. I'm going to splice up what you just said probably 8 different times, and you'll see it on social media. Thank you for that.
No,
I
you're
appreciate
good.
that. I love that. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here, if you don't
Mhm.
mind. What are 3 tips that you have for students working to navigate the Cyber Warrior program?
Yeah,
Dun,
absolutely.
dun, dun, dun.
All right. So if you guys are listening, you better listen up and listen well. All right. And for future students, I want you to listen well too. All
Oh,
right. For one, do not ever rely on motivation. All right. As a student, or just in life in general. Right. You have to have discipline. Motivation is fleeting. It's going to get you out of the bed and get you energized for maybe a day or two. But discipline is what's going to carry you through those hard days. All right. And I see a lot of students that come in, they're fired up, they got that fire in their belly, and I love to see it. But that fire dies out if it's not carried, if it's not backed by consistency. And discipline is what's going to keep you grounded, and more importantly, it's going to keep you. It's going to help show you. It's going to help you show up every single day and to push you to finish strong, even when you don't feel like it. So that'd be like my first tip.
mm,
My second tip, I would say, would be you need to lean on your instructors and the MyCC staff. And we're here for a reason, and you got to use us, right? You need to be speaking with your instructor every day. You need to be active in class, asking questions, taking notes, asking for breakout rooms. You need to be, in constant communication with your career services representative. Like, it's a real success is going to come from what you do outside the classroom as well. And if you're truly committed to excellence, you have to go beyond those lectures and dive deep into that material. And that would be like my second tip. And the last one, well, I'll give here is don't be afraid to fail. In the military, what's very much engraved in us that failure is it's life or death. But and failure can have devastating consequences. But in IT, failure is a learning tool, especially as a student in IT. You need to change your mindset because failure is how we grow in this profession. It gives you a baseline and it's going to show you where you need to improve. And, I'll be honest with you guys, I've failed more times than I've ever succeeded. And that's what's helped me grow the most. I use that failure as a stepping stone, not as a stopping point.
mm. Well, that was great. I feel like I didn't even really put you on the spot at all there. You were so
I'm
prepared with
good.
it. Well, the next question is actually our last one because you kind of answered a couple other ones there for me with that. But I do think I want to, drive this home. And if it is something that you just, oh, Thomas, yeah, you can. We have lots of programs here, and we have upskilling. Networking my CWP program, sharing resources has been the second best part of the CWP so far. Love that. Love that. Well, I guess we're talking about resources. Let's go ahead and hit one of these questions before the last one then, because one of the questions I had was resources. Any resources a student should utilize to help them understand concepts or thinking of any outside resources here. We've talked about how the instructors are always there for you, your fellow students are always there for you, which is always so important. But let's go ahead and hit these outside resources.
Yeah,
For that
absolutely.
comment, by the way, thank you for the comments.
And first resource I would always recommend to students is something called Packet Tracer.
Mm,
And what Packet Tracer allows us to do is we get to create and configure a network using networking devices, and we get to troubleshoot it. We get to use it, and you get to create DHCP servers, email servers, DNS servers, devices like PCs, laptops, routers, switches, you name it. And it allows you to break things and figure it out and find out why it's not working. So it gives you a great learning tool about the real world without having any of the repercussions of not doing the right thing.
mm,
And so Cisco Packet Tracer is definitely number one. And another big one I would recommend is, and I always tell my students, this is not for a while you're a student at MyCC thing. This is a thing after the program. But when I first got started in ethical hacking and in red teaming, I went to a website called tryhackme.com. And through TryHackMe, I started learning, about enumeration. I started learning about persistence and, how to, start doing these ethical hacking labs, and it really skyrocketed me in the direction I wanted to go with offensive security. And when you're a student in well, excuse me, let me rephrase that. When you are a IT practitioner, because I call it just like a doctor, right? They're
Mm.
practicing medicine, but we call it practicing because we're always learning. And same thing in IT, you need to constantly be a student. Even when you get that certification, you're not an expert, right? To be considered an expert in this field means you really know what you're doing, like better than 99% of other people. And so you need to be comfortable with that learning. So in finding those resources out there, like that's going to be very important. And I would say the last thing too is go to like IT conventions, right?
Mm.
Go network, go meet new people. And I do that not so much here in Kentucky, but when I was in Florida, I was always going to these. And, I remember I got put on a team for a hacking convention, and they were like, "Hey, how long you been doing IT?" And I'm like, "Oh, about 6 months." And they're like, "Wait, he's supposed to be on our team. We're gonna hack," and it was because of me that we took first place. And so there was like, "Wait, this guy is like incredible." I was like,
Uh-huh.
they were like, "Where'd you go to school at? Well, how'd you learn?" So I was like, "Oh, my CC." Although my CC wasn't really that, taught me hacking, but they're the ones that gave me the foot in the door. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate, because my CC changed my life, and I know it could change the lives of other people.
Amazing. I love it. You said tryhackme.com?
Yep, absolutely. Try hackme.com.
I might have to try that at some point.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And
Embarrass myself.
yeah, well, no, it's just you in the class. Well, not class, but it's just like you in a course, and you learn. Then you have to actually go do it. And they'll give you an IP address, and you got to be able to do a network scan, then try to enumerate different services, and try to establish a command control setting of you being able to access their system. And it gets really cool. It's really awesome.
I love that. That's fascinating. So to round this out, this has been great, Mason. Thank you so much again for your time. You have such a unique perspective though, given, you were a cyber warrior program student now turned instructor. So this is a pretty heavy question because you have that perspective, but what advice do you have for people who are trying to get their foot in the door in IT? And I know some of this we've already kind of touched on a little bit, but to really drive it home, how can they get that foot in the door, and also how can they stand out over other candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get your foot in the door, it's like a game of football. It's all about a game of inches. And the same thing about life is it's all about the small little steps that you take moving forward. And the first thing, guys, is just do your research, right? Is IT for me? Well, look it up. Like, what is IT like? If you like to work with your hands, if you like to solve complex problems, if you like to get paid really good money, well, guess what? IT is a great field. And I often tell my students that IT is kind of like a recession-proof career field, right? Because everything that we do in life now is revolved around computers and networks. And I promise you, you don't want to lay off your IT team, and because the likelihood that you'll be able to do any kind of work is not. It's not going to happen. So, but just do your research first, right? See if this is right for you, and then make that first leap of faith, right? Apply to MyCC, meet with an advisor, and they'll give it to you straight. Especially if you're doing the CWP, they're going to tell you this is the hardest program we have. All right, can you commit yourself for 3 months every single day, Monday through Friday, to be in class on time, clocked in, and listening and taking notes? If you can do that, you're going to be successful. And now some of the advice I would give you on how can I stand out amongst other competitors in the market is the first thing first is once you have the certifications, well, congratulations. That's no small feat, but you have to look at what can I be different at that's going to make me look different than everyone else. And what I did is the very first thing I did after I graduated is I made my own Python code where I had my own password manager, and I created it myself, and I still use it to this day. And after that, I made my own malware, actually, and I wanted to see how it would, on a safe system, how it would work. And that way, if I ever encounter something like that, I would have experience on being able to combat that malware, to be able to remove it from the system. And so small things like that, you could add to your resume and say, hey, look at all these cool projects I've done on the side. And, and tryhackme.com, for instance, they give out certifications for completing their courses. And so you can add that to your resume as well. And just to show that you're constantly learning, that you're constantly involving, and that you constantly have interest in this. That's what employers want. They getting someone with the certification, although it's, not a lot of people have certs, but, again, people applying for these jobs are going to have them. You got to look at the small little details, right? Some people are afraid that I'm not a people person. Maybe I don't do too well at interviews. Well, I would tell you that, for one, interviews is a part of being an adult, so get used to it. You gotta practice, no different than how you're practicing with a computer. You gotta practice interacting with people, because in IT, yeah, we mostly interact with computers, but you might be on the phone taking a phone call like, hey, my printer's not working, can you help me with this? And you gotta be able to be a human at the end of the day.
Amazing. Thank you again, Mason, so much for your time. Took away a lot from this, and I hope, I'm sure people did as well. You had a bunch of comments, people giving you praise. Absolutely love it. And yeah, you will definitely be seeing clips of this on social media, because the answers were perfect. I appreciate you.
No, you're good. Just make sure I get my what's it called, my royalties.
Yeah, I got you. We got your email. No worries, we got it there. Yeah, he was prepared. I love that. Thank you so much, Mason. All right, let's all get back to our Fridays so we can get back to. Sorry, Boss Man said no royalties, Mason. I apologize.
Oh man, come on.
We're doing so well. We could have broken that to him later. But thank you again. Hope everybody has a wonderful, safe weekend. Of course, if you need us, you know where to find us. Follow us on all our social media channels. We are over there, and we'll see you next Friday. I don't remember exactly what we're talking about, but we will be here. Mason, if you don't mind hanging out, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. We will see y'all in a week.
Absolutely. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.